Hi, this is Kevin Trainer, and welcome to part three of my tutorial for the migrations coding assignment. And just to review a bit, we are implementing a change in our database design. In our original database design, we had kind of a simple approach to the semester table. And it was simple in that it just had a primary key, an integer primary key. And it had a semester name that was a character string. And we put information into the character string that included both the year and the calendar period that we typically think of that combined make up the name of a semester. We just called it semester name. And unfortunately, that's not a very normalized design for a relational database. So our change has been to go to a more normalized design. So we still have a semester table, okay. What we've done is we've taken the information about the semester and we've broken it down into its two component parts. We have the year, which we're saving as an int. And then we have a calendar period, which we're putting in a lookup table. Okay, so we have a calendar period lookup table. It has a primary key that's an int, and it has a calendar period name. And the three calendar periods that we're using so far are spring, summer, and fall. And right now, in our sort of old implementation, because another one of the shortcomings that we have is that when we put these out in alphabetical order, they come out fall, spring, summer, and actually chronologically they occur spring, summer, fall. So what we've decided to do is we've decided to have this calendar period ID kind of act as a bit of an intelligent key. It's going to be both the ID and it's going to manage the sequence of these calendar periods such that they're going to come out as a result of some of the settings we put into our Django model. They're going to come out in the proper chronological order. Within a year, they're going to come out spring, summer, fall. Okay, so those are the changes that we're making. And let's just review the work we've done so far. So we made a lot of change in the models. Okay, so we went to the model and we put in a new table. Okay, this calendar period. Okay, and we did a migration. Okay, so we have this 004 right before I cranked up this video. I did a show migration, so we can see we've got 5 migration files. Okay, 4 are already applied. The 5th, which is the work that we were just about to do, it's not applied and it's not really coded. If we go to that file, just for reference, that 005 0005 semester changes, you'll see that we've just generated the shell of a migration file, an empty, so-called empty migration file with a descriptive name. Now, let's take a look at the migration that we did before. Okay, And that's the one for this calendar period. And one of the nice things that we were able to do was, hang on one second, I'm back. One of the things that we're able to do is we're able to take that migration file as it was automatically created for us, and we were able to complete it. So we got the migration operation that told the database that we created a new table and what the what the choices were that we made about that. And then we were able to do a conversion, a data conversion, with this migrations run Python, where we were able to add the periods that we wanted into the table. And of course, as you'll remember from part 1 and part 2, it's the nature of the migration beast that it be reversible. Okay, so we created a method that added all the calendar data, the calendar period data that we wanted, and we created a function. Not really methods; they're functions. We created a function that removed it, and that was up. Those were up here, and we were working with a a list named as a constant that had the data for the calendar periods that we wanted to add. Now, in my workings, since I left you last, I realized that what I needed a temporary value that I could give to semesters, calendar periods, while I was doing the conversion for semesters. And so what I really want is I want a fourth entry here. And of course, in my already big version, I've already done it. So if I want to do that, how am I going to do it? Well, it's got two parts. First of all, when we do, let's just do show migrations, okay? Show migrations. Okay, when we do that, you can see that this 0004 is already applied. So if we're going to change that and have it add more data, one more row, well, we had better unapply it before we change it. Okay, so you really have to think here if you're going to be changing your migration script. You're going to have to make sure if it's already applied, you're going to have to unapply it and then change it. You don't want to change it and then try to unapply the new version. Okay, so that's usually not going to work. So let's unapply it. So what we want to do is we want to say migrate, course info. I'm sorry, we need to say the number first. 0003. We're going to go back that far. Course info. I was doing it in the right order. So migrate course info 0003. Okay, and that's fine. So we back that out. Now, I just want to say, in working on this part of the assignment, I've made a lot of use of SQLite Studio. I showed you that earlier in the semester. And let's just let that crank up here. Okay, it came up on another monitor. So, let me get on our monitor here so we can see it. And this is just a really nice client that will work with the server software for SQLite. And right now we're looking at the database in the already baked version. So that's not what we want. Let's add a database from the tutorial version. So the file that we want to get is not in Easy University, but it's in Easy University Tutorial, and it's DBSQLite3. So let's open that, and we're going to give it a name, and let's call this Easy University Tutorial Database. Okay, so we have that, and let's open the tutorial database. Okay, and what can we see? Well, we can see, for instance, that we don't have a calendar periods table because we just backed it out. But what do we have? Well, let's look. We have a semester table. So let's look at that. Okay, so that's got the old configuration. It has a semester ID and a semester name. Okay, and if we go up and we double click on data, we'll say we have all these semesters that we added when we did our data migration for semester. Okay, so that's good. So that's the state we wanted this to be in. Okay, so let's add, let's go up to the, let's go to this 004 one, and we're going to say, oh, okay, we just want to add one more row. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy it from my previously baked version because it's easier that way. And here's the one more element that I added to the list. Okay, should be pretty straightforward stuff. Let's just add here. So we're going to add a temporary value. So we gave it a kind of a flag here. And we're going to give it a calendar period ID 9999. So that's going to stick out like a sore thumb. And we're only going to need it for the conversion part of the migration. And when it's done, we're actually going to take it out of there as part of the migration. Okay? That's in our 005 migration. Okay, so let's make sure that's saved. And let's apply that. Okay? So migrate course info 0004. Okay, and it says, yeah, that worked fine. And let's just go down and take a look at the database. Okay, and I don't automatically see the new table here, but if I go up to the top and refresh it, well, maybe I saw this before, I don't know. Here's a calendar period, so double click on that. And the calendar period has the ID and the calendar period name. And let's just look at the data we have here. And we have all the permanent entries. We've got spring, summer, and fall. And they have these kind of intelligent keys, at least the permanent ones, 10, 20, and 30, because we're using it as both the identifier and to control the sequence, which I've said before is okay design, perhaps not high design, but it'll get us by. And then we have our temporary value, which we're going to use and take advantage of when we're doing the next migration, which is going to do all the changes in the semester table. So while we're here, let's look at the semester table. Okay, so it has the old design and the old data. Okay, so this file that we're about to start to author, this 005 semester changes. Okay, let's take a look at that. This is going to do all the work that we have to do. Okay. Well, what work do we really have to do? Okay. Well, it it's harder than you think. Okay. A lot of times they say it's easier than you think. I've been working on this for quite a while, and I've got to say that it was harder than I thought. Um, and let's look at models.py. In models.py, I've got some annotations on, sorry, on the models classes, where I show the things that have changed. Okay, so in semester, okay, we made a lot of changes in semester. Okay, so what are the changes that we've made? Well, we're going to have to drop the semester name, but not until we've already mined the data out of it. Okay, so we're going to have to get rid of that field. That's one of the last things that we're going to do. Okay, because we don't have a semester name anymore. Okay, in the string method, we can't just return the semester name. We're going to have to return a string that we build from the year, a space, a dash, a space, and then another string, and that string is going to come from we're going to take our foreign key field calendar period, and we're going to point across and pick up the calendar period name off of the calendar period table. Okay, so this is the new version of the code. That was the old version of the code. Okay. Now, the string is not a database function. It is a model function. So it's a Django convenience. Okay, so we're not going to have to do anything for the change on the string. Okay, dropping the semester name we're going to have to do. Okay, what else are we going to have to do? Well, we are going to change the ordering. We did change the ordering here. It used to be ordered by a local field semester name, and now it's going to be ordered by year and the calendar period ID from the calendar period table that we're pointing at, and that's going to turn out to be that intelligent key that's going to put it into the right order. Now, do we have to make a change here in order to with respect to ordering? Well, it turns out that ordering is again, it's a Django convenience. It's not something that gets implemented in the database. Relational database tables do not have a reliable order according to the standard. It's implementation dependent. So we're not going to have to do that. So from the things that we've seen here, we would say we're going to drop the semester name field. We're going to add the year field. I didn't mention that yet. Okay, and then we're going to do some conversion work. Okay. So I'm going to show you this 005, and I'm just going to take the code from my previously baked version, and because I've gotten so late in the week here, I'm going to give you the code to this. Okay, I'm not even going to ask you to type it in, but I am going to ask you to understand it. Okay, so the code is going to be this. Okay, so it's 140 lines long. Okay, so it's a lot longer than any of the migrations that we've done so far. Now, let's look at what this does. Okay, so the first thing it does is it does an alter field to tell the database that the semester name doesn't have to be unique anymore. And we can have a default value. Okay, and I did that out of sequence. Okay, I really originally had that down here before I removed that. So we'll just, I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to put this into a comment for now, just so we know to come back and talk about it later. Okay, so we're going to have to tell the database that we have added two new fields to the semester table, year and calendar period. Okay, now when it adds the columns, okay, if we don't say that it has a default, then it doesn't know what to put in it, and it's going to say that it can't add the fields. So for right now, we have to pick some value that will keep it happy while it's adding the column. And so for the year, we'll just assume for now that it's 0. And for the calendar period, well, let's give it 9999. That's the one that we want. Okay, because during the conversion, that's what we're going to have. So what's going to happen is that these two columns are going to be populated with temporary data. Okay, so now we're going to run the conversion. So we're going to run Python. Okay, and you'll remember you have to create a function that does the conversion forward, and you also have to create a function that does it backward. Okay, so this can take some thinking. We're going to be kind of walking through that. Okay, now the next thing that we need to do is that we need to we're going to be done with all these temporary values that we had, and when we did the conversion, we will have overlaid the values that we put into those default values we put in the semester table, so they'll be fine. But over in our calendar period table, we've got one extra row. We've got this temporary value of 9999, which we shouldn't be pointing to anymore after we've done the conversion, and we've got to get it out of there. So we do another one of these run Pythons to run a very simple conversion that is going to, when we do it on the forward way, it's going to get rid of the entry 9999. When we reverse it, it's going to put it back. Okay? So you really have to think of, okay, what condition am I in right now? And then how do I change it the way I want? And then you also have to think, well, then how would I put it back? Okay? Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to remove the semester name field. Okay? Okay, now we're just going to do drop. All right? Now that runs just fine going forward. Okay. One of the things that we haven't really talked about, we talked about these run Pythons, okay? And we talked about how you have to write a forward version and a reverse version, okay? Okay, that makes sense. But what about the rest of these operations? Well, it knows how to do them in reverse. Okay, so what they've done is that they've defined all these changes um, in the database in a way that there's enough information for the migration engine to do them backwards when it has to do them backwards. Okay, now some of these things are easy to do forwards but hard to do backwards. And remove field is just such an animal. And why is that? Well, because way back when we defined this semester name field or column, we said that it didn't have a default. Okay. And we said it had to be unique. So what happens? Let's think about what happens when we remove the field. Boom, it just gets rid of it. Okay, what happens when we go back the other way? Well, we add a field. Okay, well, for all the existing rows, it's going to have to put some value in that column. Okay, the way to give it the information it needs is a trick we've used already. We give it a temporary default value. Okay, so when we added the year, we gave it the temporary value 0. We go back and we fix that. When we add the calendar period foreign key, okay, we give it the value 9999, and then we go back and we fix that. Okay, what we need to say here is, before we get rid of this column, we need to tell it that we're not serious anymore about it having to be unique or it not having a default value. So here's what they tell you to do. It's hard to find the references to this, but I did. Is you take code like this, okay, and you put it right before the remove. So right before the remove, you say, oh, I wasn't really serious about the value of semester name having to be unique, and I wasn't really serious about it not having a default value. So I'm going to relax the rules. Okay, so you relax the rules and then you drop the field. Okay, now when you reverse this, when you unapply the migration, when it goes to remove this, it goes, well, do I have to worry about it being unique? Oh no, I don't. Do I have some kind of a default value to put in it? Yes, I do, because we made that change right before we dropped the field. Now, ideally, this would work right here. You would just uncomment and run it. I wasted hours on this, but I could not get it to run right here. Okay, I did not get the right result. Your mileage perhaps is going to vary. Okay, so what did I do? I said, I wonder if it would work if I just put it up at the head of the list. And guess what? It did. Now, should it be sensitive to this? No, it shouldn't be. As long as we make the change, as long as we tell the database before we do the remove that we want to loosen up the rules on that column, it should be just fine. But it did not work that way. Okay, so that's why this is up front. It's up front as a workaround to something that seems like a bug to me. All right, so we remove the semester name column. Okay, then we we do an alter field and say, oh, the year on the semester table, we don't want it to have a default. That default 0, that was just something that we were playing around with the conversion. The conversion's over, we're going to tighten up the rules. Okay. And the foreign key where we to calendar period where we had said the default was 9999. We're going to get more serious about that, so we tightened it up and we said no, there is no default. Okay. And then the other thing that we need to do is that we need to go into the semester table and to say that we want the combination of the year and the calendar period to be unique. So we added that in. Okay. So this is it. Okay. These are all the things that we have to do. What makes them challenging is that they need to run backwards and forwards. Okay. Where I wasted a lot of time was in trying to do all the things at the same time. Here's what I eventually did. I eventually ran them one at a time. Okay. So I put all but one of the operations into a comment. Okay. And then I applied the migration and had it go successfully. And then I unapplied the migration, and that worked successfully. So I knew that would work. And then I went down and I added the next one. And I ran it forward, I ran it backward, and then I ran the next one. And I ran it forward and I ran it backward. Okay? Where I really lost a lot of time was down here with the remove field, because I just couldn't get it to relax the constraints on that field or table column for the life of me. Okay, but I did them one at a time all the way through, and then I would know if I was able to run them forward and run them back. Okay, so what I do is, again, I'd run just one of these forward and back, and then I'd go to two. So the two run forward, the two run back, then I'd make it three, the three went forward, and the three went back, and then I went all the way to the end. I would have saved a lot of time by doing that. So let's just run this and see it work. Okay. So let's go back and let's show migrations. And you'll see, oh, we're applied all the way through 004, and we want to apply 005. So we're going to say migrate, course info, 0005. Worked just fine. Okay, so let's look at the changes that actually got made. Okay, let's look at the actual database. Okay, so here we're on the semester table. Let's refresh that, and you can see that we've actually changed the structure of the table. So now we have a semester ID, a year, and a calendar period ID. And look, we've got them populated to 10, 20, 30, blah, blah, blah. Okay. And now let's look at the structure over here. Had been semester ID, semester name, refresh that. Semester ID, year, calendar period ID. Okay, so that's all looking pretty good. Okay, so that's pretty much what we wanted to happen. So we've got that done. And so if we go back to look at semester, we're on semester, I'm sorry. if we're looking on semester, you can see that this thing is completely coded. Okay, so we've got fall 2018. I'm sorry, spring 2018, summer 2018, fall 2018. These are not in a reliable order. Okay. Now, when we sort them, when we say that we want to order the results like we do back in the Django code, well, it puts them in the right order. So these are not in, these are, I guess, in semester ID order. Okay. And again, the order of tables, rows and tables is not reliable in all implementations. Okay. So we've got that. And then if we look at the calendar period, and we refresh that, look, the temporary value will be gone. Poof, we got rid of it. Okay, how did we do that? Well, we had an operation, we had a run Python where the forward conversion was to get rid of that one thing. So I think you can see this worked. All right, let's just go back and take another look at the code in this 005 semester changes. Okay, because we looked at all these more standard things like alter field, add field, blah blah blah. We haven't looked at the detail yet on either of the two run Python operations. Okay. Now, let's look at the second one first because it's the easier one. Okay. What I did was I took the code from the migration and conversion that we did for calendar data, and I cloned it. I hijacked it and I brought it over here. So I've got one that's instead of having say remove calendar period data, it's now called remove temporary calendar period data. So I'm going to take the temporary one, and then this one says add temporary calendar period data. And you'll notice I've reversed their roles. So when we're doing it forwards, when we're doing the conversion, well, at this point, we want to get rid of that extra row in the calendar period table. When we're doing it backwards, we want to add it back. When we're unapplying it, we want to go back and add that row back. So where's that code? Well, it's up here. Okay, so we've got the remove temporary calendar period and add temporary calendar period. And I even changed their order in the listing just to make it clear when they ran. Okay. And they still use a list called calendar periods, but the only one in it is the phony baloney one. Okay. So we use this list of one entry in order to get rid of the temporary row. Okay, so when we do it forward, we find that row and we call delete on it. Okay. When we do it backwards, well, we take that data and we call create. So we create that row. So it's really interesting. You've got to think in a really perspective-oriented way, because you really have to have a full understanding of what it's going to take to do it forward and what it's going to take to do it backwards or undo it. Okay, so let's look at this other one. Okay, this is the main conversion. So we've got a run Python where we're converting the semester data, And I wanted to have proper names here because we're really not adding and deleting rows, right? We're not really adding and removing. We're really kind of populating and and repopulating things. So I called this, the forward one, I called it forward convert semester data. And then the backward one, I called reverse convert semester data. Okay. So let's look at the forward one and see how that goes. Well, the forward one, we're going to have to work both with rows in the calendar period table and rows in the semester table. So we need to do these calls to apps-get model in order to get a reference to the model classes. Okay, so we do those two. And then we do a query on the model that returns a query set that has all the semester objects, so all the rows from the semester table. And then we say for semester and semester, so for each row in the table, we need to get the semester name, and we need to extract a year from it. Okay. And instead of doing that inline, I wrote a nice little function to do that that I'll show you in a minute. Okay, so it uses regular expressions and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so it's a helper function, and it just you pass it a one of those old style semester names that has the year, the space, the dash, a space, and then the name of the calendar period, and it'll extract the year. Okay, so that's how we populate the year, and then we get the name of the calendar period by calling the other helper function, extract calendar period name, and again we pass it the semester name, and then we get back a string fall, string spring, summer. Okay, and then in order to set this foreign key, we need to actually retrieve the object itself. So what we do here is we do a get. We get the calendar period object that has this calendar period name. Okay, and then all we do is we take the reference that we have to that object and we assign it to the calendar period foreign key, and we've set the foreign key. Okay, I can see I've got some dead code here. I'm going to get rid of that. I thought I had to reset the semester name to get rid of it, and I didn't. So I commented that out, and that's gone now. And then having changed this semester object, I save it. I call save on it. Okay, so what that does is it takes this string version of the semester name, and it extracts the two parts, and it uses them to build the new version of the entry where we need to populate the year, which is just a field or a column on semester, and then calendar period, which is a foreign key. So to populate the foreign key, you actually have to go and retrieve the object you want to point to. Okay, so that's how you get that done. Now, what did my helpers look like? Well, I was kind of proud of those. I probably could have done a more efficient version of the regular expression, but I did a find all. Okay. Um, this is where we're looking for the year. So I said at the beginning of the string, we're looking for 4 digits and then a space. So that's going to come before the dash. Okay. And what we're expecting to get back is just one. Um, we're expecting to find just one string. Okay. Um, and we're taking it out of the semester name field. So the find all, you will recall, gives you back a list of everything that got found. So if the length of the list, which I called answer, is 0, then you didn't find any years. If the length is 1, then you found exactly 1 year. That's what you want. And if the length were 2, I don't think it's really possible with the string I have here to find 2 years, but I figured I would just say if the length of the list that we got back was not equal to 1, I decided to raise an error. Okay? And why did I want to do that? Well, the reason I wanted to raise an error is that the mechanism we have for running the migrations, it's very good at problems that that raise errors. So if you're trying to apply the migration and you get an error raised, well, it doesn't really apply the migration, and you can go back and try to fix it. Likewise, if you're trying to unapply the migration and something raises an error, then it throws away the changes that have been made so far, and you get to try again. So I thought it was particularly important when we're trying to do these conversions. If we find a problem and we can't continue, that instead of just printing a line or not doing anything, I think we want to raise some kind of error. And the built-in error that that I like, that seemed the closest to what we wanted, was called value error. So I raised a value error, and then I passed a string that gave me a pretty good description of what had gone wrong. Okay. So when we're looking for the year, we're looking for 4 digits. When we're looking for the semester name, we're only looking for spring or summer or fall, and we're looking for them only at the end, and we're looking for a space before them. Okay, so if in fact I had some dirty data here, I probably would have blown up on the migration. Okay, but I didn't have any dirty data because I've been careful. Okay, so that's the forward migration. Okay, well, what about if we want to reverse it? How would we do that? Well, we just want to sort of reverse those changes. So it's kind of interesting and kind of challenging that you go, boy, what does it take to undo that, right? Well, we're not adding or deleting any rows when we're doing this. We're simply populating values. Okay, so if we want to undo this, okay, what are we going to do? Well, we don't have to worry about the we don't have to worry. Well, I'll show you what I did. I came through, I got all the semester objects, okay? And then I built a semester name. How did I do it? Well, I took the year that I had, and I added a space dash space, and then I chased across the foreign key, and I got the calendar period name off of the row on the other table, and I put that all in the semester name. And then I decided that um, I wanted to go back to having a 0 in the year. That's how it was originally found. Okay. And then the other thing is that I wanted to connect the calendar period to the temporary row, the 9999. So again, to do that, you can't just use the key. You actually have to get the object. So I did a get, and I got the calendar period with the ID 9999, and then I did an assignment of the reference to that object into the foreign key field, and now we're pointing to the temporary row in the table. And then, of course, you have to do a save. So there's a lot of work here. There's a lot of thinking. Pretty clearly, if you did one thing like this, and you needed to do another thing like this, you could go back and, kind of clone it, kind of appropriate it. Okay, so, but there's a lot of thinking, there's a lot of testing. It's kind of fun. It took me a lot longer than I thought. So, we're so late in the week now, I decided what I'd do is I'd give you the code, and I want you to do is to go through it. A real good way to test it, for instance, would be to do this kind of approach that I told you to do, which was don't test the whole thing at the same time, right? Test the first, then test the first and the second, and then the first, the second, and the third, and it's easy when you know what the new code is. Then you probably know that something in there broke what you had. But just to look at this again, if we decide we're going to, if we decide that we're going to unapply this, so let's look at show migrations. Okay, and we're applied all the way through 5. Okay, and again, if we want to unapply it, we can just say migrate course info 0005. I'm sorry, 0004. We want to go back to 4, and it unapplies it. And then if we want to reapply it, we just go back up and reapply it. Pretty nice. So when you finally get it done, it's really slick. It runs really, really well. But there are a lot of parts of this migration. They're really conversion oriented, and you have to get a lot. We've made a pretty small change here. I mean, this is an obvious change in the design of the database, but it wasn't so big. Okay, so now how does this test out with our application? We should be ready at this point to make the application work. Okay, I want to tell you that I forgot to make a couple changes in the model that are going to break the Django app. Okay, so let's see how that works. Let's try to run the server. Okay, by the way, when I get here, I always think this is a nice place to do a commit, right? When I get to the end of a migration and I have it applied, I want to do a commit and say, I'm committing all the work in the migration and the migration's applied. And it seems to work particularly well if you've included your database file with your with the files you have under version control, because then you seem to be able, if you get really into trouble, you can go back to a prior commit and start to work your way forward again. Okay, so let's run the server. That looks pretty good. And that's broken. So I had a hard time with this. I look at this and I go, well, what's not working here? And it says that it's on the base.html page here on line 12. And you look at line 12, there's nothing on line 12 of the base.html page that has to do with it can't find the semester name. But I'm thinking, oh, semester name. That was a problem. Yeah. Now, how did I do that? So, I'm going to pause to bring up a little information. I'll show you the lines that I had to change. Okay? Be right back. Okay. So, I've got a couple of problems in the model. Okay? And I've got a problem or two in the template files, and I'm going to show you where they are. So let's go to the models. Okay. And let's make that big so we can find it. Okay. And so what's the first thing that we have here? Well, we have to change the string for self. Now that's working fine. Oh, I just want to point out something. So I got thinking about, well, what was really going on? We were on the base.html page. Well, no. What comes up first? Well, the section list comes up first. So I'm saying, is a section name used somewhere on the section list? And I go, oh yeah, it probably is. So let's go down to section. Okay, that's down at the bottom. And let's see what we missed in terms of what we should change. Okay. And it turns out that this string uses semester name. Uh-oh, that's not what we want. So how are we going to fix that? Well, I'm going to show you the code that we're going to put in. Okay? So here's the new version. Makes sense when you see it. We've already changed the string function for semester. I remembered to do that. So instead of getting the field semester name off of the semester model instance, well, we don't have a semester name, but we've written a string function which builds it for us. So instead of referring to dot semester name, we're going to do a dot call to the string function. So that's going to solve some of our problems. Okay? And I'm just going to take the first one and I'm going to put it into a comment. All right? And then another problem that we're going to have, and it took me a while to find that, is that in ordering, we refer to the semester name. So we say, okay, go to the semester name, go to the semester, and take the semester name and use that for ordering. So what we're going to do here is we're going to put that into a comment. And we're going to bring over the new version. And the new version is actually simpler code. So let me show it to you. And I'd be moving faster if I wasn't on 3 monitors. Apologize for that. Okay. So we've got this. Okay. So what is it? Well, we say use semester. Now, what I believe is happening here is that it's using, again, it has an implicit call to the string function on the semester object. So what we're really getting here is the semester name. Okay? So we fixed those two. Okay. We've gone a ways. Okay. Now we've got a couple of other problems in templates. So let me go find the templates that need to be fixed. Okay. So on semester detail, okay, let's just go look. On semester detail, if we look at that, we have a place down here on line number 18 where we are asking for the semester name. Well, how could we do that easier? Well, again, don't ask for the semester name. Just say, I want an implicit call to the string method, okay? And that will get us what we want. Okay, so just get rid of the last part of that. That's going to save that. And we've got one other change here. Oh, maybe I'm wrong. No, I think that's all of them. Okay, so let's see how we can do. So let's go. Middle, this changes. Let's go back. Oh, that's looking good. Okay, so let's see. We went to the section list. It didn't blow up. That's promising. Okay, so are they in the right order? Well, the 2018s are in spring, 2017 fall, 2018 summer. We really can't tell if they're in the right order, but it seems to be synthesizing the names of the semesters quite well. Okay, in the section list. So let's go to semesters and look at the order that they're in. By year, by calendar period, but it's chronological because we use that kind of intelligent key for the primary key for calendar period. So it's coming out spring, summer, fall, which is not alphabetical order. So that's coming out nicely. And then if we go to a detail page for semester, it's coming up the right way here too. It is synthesizing the name again. Okay, so pretty good stuff. Now I'm going to ask you this: what about the calendar periods? We don't have a way to change the calendar period here. Well, you'll remember that I said that we're going to maintain the calendar periods with admin. So let's go to admin. I don't know, he's already signed in here. So that's it. So let's look at calendar periods. And there they are, spring, summer, and fall. Okay, could I add another one? Sure I could. Okay, the calendar period ID, because I didn't say this was an auto field, I actually get to populate this. So let's just say 8888. test entry. Okay, we save that, and it works just fine. Now let's get rid of that, and we can delete it. Okay, yes, I'm sure. Very good. Pretty cool stuff. The other thing that you can't do is you can't add, I'm sorry, let's go back up, calendar periods. You can't add one with the same name. So you can't say 8888 fall, because we already have a fall. It's not going to let you do that. Pretty sweet. Would you agree? And I want to show you one more thing before we go. So let me pause and I'll be right back. Okay. But we have changed. We should have changed the way that we can create new semesters and change semesters. So let's go back to the main app. And let's go to semesters, which you can change in our app. Okay. And let's do something like this. So first of all, let's say we want to create a new semester. So let's try to add 2020 fall again. Shouldn't allow us to do it. So let's add 2020 and add fall. And create semester. Okay, and what's really neat here is that the fields for, or the columns for semesters have changed completely. Okay, and yet we didn't have to explicitly go and change the forms because we're using model forms. We changed the model, and implicitly we changed the form because we're using a model form. And we're getting just the behavior that we want. So let's say we want to create 3030 spring. Can we create that? Yes, we can. Here it is right here. And we go to the semesters and we have 3030 spring. And let's say, well, no, we don't really want that. So let's delete the semester. And we're going to delete it. And now there's no 3030 spring. So all that behavior that we had before for semesters on a different set of columns, it's inherited and kind of modified by the changes that we made in the model. And that is just fantastic. So that's what you want to do. So I'm giving you the code for the, what am I doing? I'm going to give you the code for the 0005 migration, and I probably ought to give you the code for the model. I'll put both of those up, okay? And between those, you should be able to make a quick job of it. So the time you don't put into typing and coding, here's what I want you to do. I do want you to test it, okay? And ideally, I want you to test it in that kind of incremental way that I talked about, because just simply testing it is probably challenge enough for the rest of the time we have in the current week. And then, of course, I want you to deploy it. Okay, once you get it up and you get it deployed and get it tested, I want you to deploy it to Python Anywhere. And so I think we've covered migrations. You certainly can find harder migrations to do, but they're kind of built on the things that we've already done. So with the skills that you have here, you ought to be able to put together, with a little bit of reading and thinking, pretty much any migration that you want to do. So good luck with all this, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye bye.